right. Hi, everybody, and welcome to Faith in Home Buying, equipping people of faith for the home buying process. And, today I have a great guest, Alain Dussau, and he is kind of a lifesaver in a lot of ways. And, when you're doing home ownership, there's a lot of different factors it takes in order to really, purchase your home, specifically if it's a condominium or any other type of home that has a homeowners association or what we call a HOA. So Alain, just say hello real quick and what is the name of your company and what it is that you do.
Good morning. My name is Alain Dussau. The company name is Disclosure Line Incorporated. We're incorporated in California. I'm doing HOA disclosure analysis.
Yep, exactly. And we're going to talk about that today because I think it's a really, really important subject. I always like to start off, just kind of with a little bit of activation. And activation wise, it's talking about wisdom. For a lot of times when you're lacking in wisdom on things, situations happen that, probably could have been avoided in the first place. And, as an agent, when I talk with my clients, one of the things that us as agents, and I'm just going to be real, like a lot of us, we kind of, we don't really focus a lot on the HOA documents because it's not something that, number one, we are trained to go over because we don't have expertise in that particular area. However, some of us see certain things, but we really don't have the capacity to let a buyer know, if it's a good one, if it's a healthy one, about reserves or things that need to look out for. So that's why this conversation is really, really important today, because I think it's not only going to shed light on areas that us as agents really, really need to make sure that's just as important as a property inspection, just as important as a termite inspection, to know about things. This is also to one of those reports that you need to look at. And so if you're inside of a situation right now and you're listening, take heed. And because Alain, he's going to bring some information today that you probably didn't know, that's going to affect us not only in this month, but actually the rest of this, even the year and the rest into the next years to come. Quickly, so what is an HOA, right? So a homeowners association, and Alain, you can go into detail in a second even more, but the homeowners association is kind of a set of rules, bylaws, regulations that is formed together in a community. And usually you have people that a lot of times that are in the community that are part of the board and this governing board, and sometimes outside areas too, property management companies, they do it as well. But you have a governing board that actually votes on what things are okay to do in the community. So you have a covenants, codes, and restrictions, something that the builder has kind of set in place for that community. But then you also have the homeowners association where they have another set of rules and bylaws that are specific to that community. Everything from color of the homes to how things are planted. And some of you guys know about HOAs and you're like, oh, I hate HOA. But actually, I kind of think they're a good thing to have, like kind of guardrails in place, so that that your community will continue to remain in value, and that what you're paying into, they're going to take care of the facilities and the amenities that are inside the complex. Right. So that's kind of like a big overview of what a homeowner association is. And I'm sure Alain will go into a little bit more. So Alain, so why is it so important to understand the HOA documents? Because there's a lot of them that come when you're looking at, the HOA, reports. Why is it important to know what's inside of it?
That's a very good question. And thank you for the description. I will add a little bit about the HOA and the idea behind. So why is it important to know what's going on? Because the seller has to give you a lot of pages by law. The seller can sleep at night. I did all the disclosure. We can talk about that later on. So now as a buyer, your duty is to read them. The situation, if only I had known, I would not have. Well, let's avoid that. You need to know what's going on. Very quick return to the HOA. HOA, a lot of condition restrictions. I would perceive that as a little bit like, oh gosh, why am I going there? HOA is for an essential reason, I believe. Let's do the comparison, single family home versus a condo or a planned unit development in an HOA. Mm-hmm. Single family, you decide when to change the roof, when to repaint, you maintain your investment. You say you don't park on the grass and you park here, you don't park there. On your own, you decide you don't have to write a document and record it to the county. Now HOA, many of us are living in the same complex. So we need those rules and they are recorded in the county. The main idea behind is to protect everyone's investment.
Yeah,
we all know you buy a property, one day you may have to resell it. And if you didn't maintain it, you're not going to get top money on the market. So you need to maintain, and that maintenance is done collectively with what we call an homeowner association. You're part of that homeowner association. This is not a governing body that just here to annoy you every morning when you get up and collect money and put fine. That's not the situation. You're part of it. You're part of the decision. You manage it with everyone. And again, this is to protect your investment as you would do with your own single family residence. That's a little bit about the HOA. I wanted to add that, maintaining everyone's investment. So what do? I'm reading those documents. So you mentioned just earlier that we have home inspection. And the person come and say, GFI, GFCI, okay, I'm stopping here. I don't know how to make the difference between those two. And you ask somebody who knows. That's the same for the HOA. Because again, by law, the seller has to disclose 10 items, Article 4525. By law, the buyer has to read them between 200 to 1600 pages, I've seen.
Right, it's a lot.
Would you like to read them? And do you know, I mean, that's not an attack on everyone's capabilities, but yes, it takes a specialist who does that every day, every morning, every night, every afternoon, reading those documents. Basically, I know where to find this or that information. I know that not all HOAs are presenting the same information the same way. So it could be very complex. Yes, absolutely, it's complex. So that's why you hire me. That's why you hire me to read all those documents. And I'm bringing all the facts that are related to that HOA. And I answer your questions because you may have your own set of questions. You may have your own goal to buy or not to buy that property.
Exactly. And so I think what I want to accomplish today is just kind of like, well, then, why? Like, I could, person may consider themselves pretty smart and can kind of go through. However, we're going to talk about some pitfalls that you may not know about with regards to your HOA documents. And this is the reason why needing to have someone analyze it and give you a report on this is exactly what it is. So for instance, someone sees reserves and, oh, it's a nice amount of money in there. Okay, they have reserves. But what could potentially be an issue?
Nobody talk about it, but you have a special assessment 6 months down the road and can be a significant amount of money. You need to know what's going on with those reserves. You need to understand what is the exact financial situation about the reserve. Can be some component that has been ignored on purpose because, we all, let's take a component such as a roof, 30 years, and some roof may last 35 years. Very good, but it has to be under control. Maybe that can inflate the reserve momentarily, but doesn't mean the roof doesn't need to be changed. So you have complex processes happening behind the reserve. And to understand the amount of money, where that money come from, has some money been borrowed against the reserve, a lot of things that will give you information on how your investment is being maintained and protected.
Right, because things can happen where, at first the HOA amount may be $200. And then after the assessment, because they're maybe doing repairs on the building, which you didn't know about because you probably didn't see it in the minutes, or maybe they left that out, that's going to bump up to maybe about $400 because they have to pay for the work that's about to be done.
Exactly. I've seen so many scenarios. I mean, we have to understand that by law, the HOA has to maintain the record of what's going on with the reserve. Doesn't mean they have to collect money and save money because everyone does his own way, but you have to understand the situation. Let's come back to the single family residence. You have a roof. It costs $30,000 to replace every 30 years. So family one will save $1,000 a year. Family two will save $2,000 a year and be done in 15 years. Family three will say, no, we wait for the roof to collapse and then we'll pull the money. And nobody's right, nobody's wrong. But you need to know that situation because now that's the same roof for which everyone is paying. You need to know where you're at. And if they have decided not to save money, not to put money aside for that roof, you need to know that the roof is 28 years old, and in 2 years we'll have to replace it, and there is no money in the bank to replace it. So somebody will have to pay for it. You need to know that situation.
And the more you know about it, the more you're able to even, negotiate in the
Exactly.
It's a little bit harder because, again, the HOA documents come kind of a little bit later. They usually don't come up front. It usually takes, per contract, about 8 to 10 days for it to happen after offer acceptance. So again, coming in on a non-contingent offer, or an offer where you don't have any contingencies at all, you might want to put in an HOA contingency, yes, or try to have it, done as soon as possible. But when the HOA documents come, you still have 5 days to look at new information that has been presented anyway. So
yes,
it's been non-contingent.
So often, it's like 99% of the cases, something is missing. So we ask, hey, can I get this here on financial? Yep. Can I get, then it's new material discoveries that happen in a contingency transaction. So a lot of things can happen. Yes, learn. Even if you have no time, even if nothing is given to you, get that package because it's due to you as a buyer. Learn, you create your file, your understanding of the situation.
Obviously there's only so much you can do in about 30 minutes, but we're going to try to give more information now, Alain, on why HOA analysis is important in home buying, just as important as a property inspection, just as important as a termite inspection, just as important as a chimney inspection. These things are pretty important. So can you give us, we talked a little bit about, why it's important, kind of the high view, but go into detail about maybe a situation that has happened that you've seen that, if it was caught beforehand, it wouldn't be an issue and probably be in the courts right now.
And I have tons of examples with so many reviews I've done over the past years. And there's one that just happened over the last summer. Somebody was buying a property for a family member, and this didn't happen in the Bay Area, obviously. The property was some land with with a house and everything, and they wanted to put a couple cattle head. Mm-hmm. Not a very standard
cattle. They wanted to do cattle, okay.
Cattle, yeah, not a very standard request, but it happened. So, nonetheless, the buyer asked, and the listing agent said, "Yeah, absolutely, no problem at all. Go ahead." And of course, they close the transaction. And then they asked me to understand what's going on. So what did happen is that the listing agent was not wrong in the sense that in the CCNR it was written they could bring some cattle, but what everyone missed, and that's why it's also important for the seller, because the seller has a duty to present everything. Cannot say, "Oh, I didn't know," "Oh, the HOA didn't tell me." No, the seller has a duty. What was missing? A couple amendments. The second amendment was 6 years after the CCNR, and it says printed clearly, no cattle.
No cattle.
Not anymore. Mm-hmm. So learn before. Everyone tried to interpret the thing by saying, but look, that the date here, the date at the bottom of the page is more recent than that's the date of the recording of the document. And the document was duly recorded with the county, and there was no question asked. The HOA was, okay, guys, we did that. We did record the document. No cattle. End of story.
Yeah, that's right.
So learn. Mm-hmm. There's not. We never can say I learn everything. We never can say I learn enough. No. Ask your question. Ask your question for your situation. Every situation is different. Ask your question, and we look at the document. My job is to go through all the document. And yes, I've seen some omission in title report. Then I've seen some omission in the disclosure package. And we had that. We didn't know. I have countless stories.
Right, exactly. And, I just, even as an agent, and if there's any other agents, or if you're in the process and such, Alain, how can people get in touch with you? And what's the process to get in touch with you, to even start this process? Yeah.
Website, HOAmadesimple.com.
Right.
HOAmadesimple.com. And you place an order. You mention who placed the order, HOA property. And as soon as I receive the documentation, it's explained on the website. I will do the review. 3 days for buyers, 5 days for seller. I can do a rush 24 hours if you need to. We understand that. Even on a Sunday, I understand that. It's real estate doesn't stop on a weekend.
Right.
And I received the document. There's one update free of charge because one, I guess, or two over the several hundred HOA did review. It's never complete, and there's always a question the buyer has. And so the first update is free of charge. Additional update, there's a charge for that. It's a very simple process. Everything is clearly outlined. HOA made simple.com.
Okay, excellent. And within our closing hours, I think also too is important to know, like for instance, okay, we had the discussion before. Changes, happen all the time with HOA rules, regulations, countywide, statewide. Explain a little bit about the change that's happening now that, hey, HOA document review or an analysis would be really, really helpful because this change is about to happen.
You mentioned, you're talking about new laws, and every year we have set of new laws coming up. Mm-hmm. So for the last 2 years, we got a couple of them. One on eviction rules that has huge impact on HOAs, and the other one is about rental. That one was signed by Governor Newsom on September 28th of this year, and it's impacting HOAs, every HOA starting January 1st, 2021. It's AB 3182 for people who wants to research. There's no secret about that.
Say that again. Which one is it?
I'm sorry, AB 3182.
AB 3182, okay.
Assembly Bill 3182, signed September 28, 2020 by Governor Newsom. So what does it mean? Bye-bye occupancy requirement, bye-bye rental cap, or more precisely modified rental cap. Meaning some HOAs had, there's no judgment behind it, some had some very restrictive rental rules. You have to live in the property for 1 or 2 years before being able to rent. And then you have the rental cap and so forth. So in an effort to increase the number of, to increase the capacity of renting and so forth in California, governor signed that new bill. Rental cap maximum 25%.
Wow. So I know a lot of my clients even now. So what he's saying is, this is huge. And the reason why it's huge is because, number one, not only does a 25% rental cap, just because of ADU units. Now, everyone said, oh, ADU units, this is great. This is a great thing to happen. They're popping up everywhere. However, those ADU units actually are going to change things across the board because of rental, the capacity, and short-term rental as well. So think about it. Sometimes with a rental capacity in a lot of places that I see, 50%, they kind of cap it at and say, no, we can't go any less than 50%. It needs to be owner occupied, property. This is going to affect not only the buyers coming in, because there's certain loans like federal, FHA loans, VA loans that you cannot have under a 51% or so a homeowner occupancy rate. And that's not only going to affect buyers, that's going to affect even people that are there, that are already living there and trying to refinance.
The impact is important, but I don't want to scare people. It's just a state of California that is evolving in that direction. We need to know. That's more important than anything else, because if you're an investor buyer, your priority are not the same as someone who wants to buy a condominium to live in that condominium for the next 20 years to come. So, and who knows what can happen. So again, this is a fact. This is a new law. This has been signed. Void rental caps more restrictive than 25%. Allows 30 days lease restriction, but appear to void anything greater than 30 days. Law firms are split on this point. So, a new bill, it's written that way, not this way. So talk to an attorney. They will inform you exactly. But if an HOA has greater restriction than that, or doesn't have restriction, everything is falling apart January 1st, 2021. They have 2 months to rewrite their governing document. There will be some penalty associated to HOA will not comply with that new law, up to $1,000. So I cannot give you all the details because, again, I'm not an attorney, but this is a fact. That law has been signed. This is valid. This is going to be used. So HOA have to be aware of that. They have to modify their governing document accordingly. And when you buy, when you sell, know about that, because the old rule you had in your HOA or that old rule you see in that HOA may not be enforceable anymore, may not be valid anymore.
Exactly. No, and I thank you very much, Alain. And we're coming to a close right now, but even from and I really appreciate you just taking the time to let us know the importance. And I'm sure people have questions, even those that are probably in HOAs and stuff too. And so, thank you for making yourself available to even answer, just questions in general about HOA. And so if someone did have a question, Alain, how again can they contact you?
So on the website, hoamadesimple.com, you can ask a question, you can contact me, have an email, alan@disclosureline.com. Oops, Disclosure Line, HOA Made Simple, a little bit of confusion in all that stuff. So Disclosure Line is a company, Disclosure Line. And both websites are linked. If you do disclosureline.com, you end up at hoamadesimple.com. HOA Made Simple, HOA Made Simple. That's the key word. Don't be scared. Don't be afraid. Just go to the specialist who will tell you everything you need to know for your transaction. That's important. Last word about the analysis we do. Don't use a review that was done for the unit next door 6 months ago.
Right. Every review.
This is very different. The situation may have changed, may have not changed, but also from one unit to the other, the financial impact is not the same. So again, each review for each unit at the time of the transaction.
No, and that's really good to know. And Alain, thank you again for your time. And everyone, hey, I know you probably have questions. No worries. You can get in contact with me on my website, TamikaEllsworth.com. You can catch me on TikTok, realestate_T, or even my Instagram, Tamika Ellsworth. It's pretty simple, huh? Even you can phone call 408-561-7922. But thank you again for joining in for home buying. We are equipping people of faith for the home buying process. And I hope this message has helped a lot of you out there. And hopefully, you guys are making sure that all the documents are being recorded and looked at so that you can be an educated home buyer and seller. Thank you, everyone. God bless.
Thank you, Tamika. Thank you for having me. Bye-bye.